Well, hello everybody. So tonight I'm going to do something a little different. I'm just going to do a watercolor painting, and not just going to do, but I'm going to do a watercolor painting. And so today I'm going to do this Mardi Gras mask, and I'm going to have this file available if anybody wants to download it and paint it. I am using a watercolor little journal that I got for Christmas. I can't even get the title into here. There you go. Little watercolor journal, and I am going to use this crazy palette of paint, so you can use whatever kind of watercolor paint you have. And I normally use my Winsor Newton, but I can't find them right now, and I think I left them at the studio. So I have this crazy palette here. It's crazy. It looks like how you get those swatches of Pantone paint colors, and so it just spins out and it actually shows you what each color is down here, and pretty cool. It's got a little sponge here and a little palette right here at the end. So it even has a little holder to put your brush or your pen. And so I am going to use the one of these water brushes. If you can really see this. So you fill it with water, and then you just squeeze it to get more water. But you do want to have water on hand, so you can, if you change from color to color, you can use the water instead of just keep squeezing this out to get the color out. So anyway, I like to do ink with watercolor. So sometimes I do the inking first, sometimes I do it second. So I think I'm going to do it second after I paint this, because I really want to make this kind of with paint splats and stuff like that, splats and stuff like that. You're also going to need you a paper towel. I do lots of blotting when I watercolor. It's just the style I do. It's just the way I learned. I started taking watercolor classes when I was a little kid, and I just love watercolor. I do a lot of acrylic because sometimes it's just easier to do acrylic, but I really love watercolor, and I really want to get back into doing more watercolor. And since I got this pad for Christmas, I am going to start out with this Mardi Gras mask. So I want to make it fun and loose, and so let's just see how it goes. It's probably been about a year since I watercolored, so we're going to all experiment together. So please don't hold it against me, because I'm very new doing it again. So these little paints, it's called 42 Colors Superior Watercolor. It's something I got on Wish. It was like $5, and I thought, well, you know, if it sucks, it sucks. But I really like it. It's good to travel with because it folds all the way up, very compact. And so, yeah, I really enjoy it. So I'm going to start off doing this yellow, the mask part yellow. And so when you do watercolors, you tend to want to do light to dark because you cannot cover the dark colors with a lighter color like you can in acrylic. In acrylic, you can just let it dry and then paint over. Now in watercolors, you do tend to erase your lines after you're finished. And so what I'm doing is I'm just doing the dark along the edge, and then I am feathering it out. So it does give it kind of a shadow effect. And like I said, I do blot a lot, and so right now I'm just picking up some of this color and wiping it on my paper towel. You can also blot like this, which I do a lot of that as well. So like I said, I painted a lot when I was a kid. I took watercolor classes and painting classes. I think you had to graduate up to watercolor. And I was probably about 10 or 11 when I started watercoloring. And I really enjoy it. It's something that if you don't have a lot of space at your home for all these different art supplies, watercolor, you can kind of fit it all into like a little zipper pack. And that's what I have. Mine in, well, I have bazillions of paints all over the place, but I think mine are in a little zipper pack at the studio. And so you see I accidentally dipped into a little darker color there, so I'm just your water is kind of your eraser, if you think of it that way. So you can always blot to get a lighter color. And so this is just kind of a wash. And so if I make a little area too dark, I can just go in and put, like I just dipped into the water here and put it here. And then you can either kind of pick up your paint and wipe it off, or you can blot. And so I really like the blot look because it just has a, I don't know, for lack of a better word, painterly effect. I'm not trying to make this look exactly like a Mardi Gras mask. I'm just trying to make it be a pretty painting. And so I've got the gold here, or the yellow, and then do I want to stick just to Mardi Gras colors, or do I want to branch out? Let's see how this looks. So, and you don't want to really just dip into paint and paint directly from the paint. You want to put it on like a little palette if you have one, and you can use a lot of different things for palettes, but anything plastic works really good because you can wash it off. You can also do the same trick that I've done with the acrylics, where I use like a little takeout container that's got a good sealed lid, and it will keep your paints ready to paint. But you can always reconstitute, is that the right word? But you can always add water to your watercolor paints to get them fluid again. Like I have a lot on my palette here, and all I have to do is wet it, and I can activate that paint again. So watercolors, a lot of fun. And if anybody is interested in me doing a watercolor class or workshop, let me know, because I would be more than happy to do that. I really enjoy watercolors, and I really enjoy what they call like urban sketching, where you just kind of go somewhere and sit and do some sketches. Urban meaning in the city, but you know, you could do a park if you wanted to. I'm not a real good landscape artist. It's just never been something I strive to do. I mean, when I was a kid, we did these paintings of like an old barn, and I remember doing a painting for my aunt of their old, she sent me pictures of what, or little sketches of what she thought their house looked like when they were growing up, because I guess they didn't have cameras way back then. And, I mean, they had cameras. They didn't have cameras because, you know, we're talking, my mom was the baby and she was born in 23. So we're talking, you know, old homestead pictures. So anyway, she gave me some sketches, and I made a painting for her. And that was like my first paid job as an artist. And I was about 11 or 12 years old. And I was just so tickled. And every time I went to their house, I could see the painting I did hanging up, and it was really cool. But watercolors, to me, I know a lot of people don't feel like they're very forgiving, but I do find they're very forgiving. I mean, not as forgiving as acrylic, where you can just paint over it after it dries, but I just love the ease and the ability to just take them anywhere you want, you know. So I know a lot of people use watercolor pencils or watercolor markers. I've tried to do the colored pencil with the watercolor. You know, I'm okay with it because I am more of a what would be the right term? I like to draw and illustrate really more than paint. Even though I do like to paint, I more like to sit down, and I even just use sometimes just these little cheapy dollar store pencils that you can get like 100 in a pack, and I do like to sketch, so this is fun, and I like adding color this way. But there are a lot of people that use the watercolor markers. If that's something you're into, great. And people are using watercolor and watercolor markers in the adult coloring books. So let's see. So how does the peacock feather really look? I don't really remember, to be honest with you. But let me see, I'm going to add a little. I think there's like blue right in here. I mean, these cheap from China paints are very vibrant. I mean, look how vibrant that is. But I'm going to blot this a little bit. And so watercolor, you know, is really meant to be layered. So you want to start off like with a light wash and then you just build it up. And that way you can add different colors to do shading. Can you even see that? Pretty color. Pretty colors, pretty colors. So I'm going to do a wash in here of different colors. And then I will build that up. To me, watercolor is just very relaxing, you know, especially when you do stuff in like a sketchbook, because, and the kind that you can pull out. So it's like, if I mess up, I can just pull the page out. Nobody's going to know. Remember that, you know, that commercial they have is, they're not going to know. They're going to know. They're not going to know. They're going to know. Yeah, they're really not going to know for this. Because I could just, if this doesn't come out, then I just tear the page out and be done with it. And I probably should have printed out a picture of what a peacock feather looks like, but I didn't. So this is what we get. Very relaxing. I probably should add a little purple in these feathers. So let's see. I think this is a purple. And I think just the medium of watercolor just gives it that, you know, people don't expect, I mean, I don't know who people are, but, you know, you don't expect for watercolor to be, you know, perfectly realistic because of the nature of watercolor. But there are some people that can paint some really realistic watercolors. So I'm just trying to give a little life to that feather up there before I go touch it up even more. And so this, and see, this is already dry. This is already dry. So I can go ahead and start putting some purple in here or some darker green. And I'm going to go in and get me a little bit darker green color. And I'm just going to kind of outline this mask. And also, this is a pretty cheap little watercolor brush, you know, and so that is what I'm painting this with. Now it does have a good, nice point. If it didn't have a good point, I probably wouldn't use it, but. So this is just something you could quickly do and frame it. You know, you could do one for different holidays and just a little watercolor. You could have a little frame that you put on your mantle or on your island, and you just change up your little watercolors for each season. How sweet would that be? I'm just going in on the right hand side and making kind of like a little shadow. I'm just doing the other side now. And some stuff I do the ink on really because it kind of saves it, makes it look a little less, well, not less, but I mean, it kind of can forgive some issues if you have any when you ink it. And I like that layered effect. I don't know if I'm going to ink this one or not. It's looking pretty good. So you can see I kind of got some blobs of paint, not paint, water in my, while I'm painting. So you could blot those out, which will really pull a lot of that color back out again like that. Or you can just let it sit there and dry. It'll take longer to dry, of course. And when you layer, if your goal is layering, then you do want to make sure that that color is dry or it's going to bleed into it. See right here, it bled into it, which is what I was going for. But up here, it was drier, so it kind of made a line on top. Okay, so I'm going to put some little purple dots on here. Well, no, I've got some little lines here. So let me do those little lines, see how that looks. So I'm sorry I'm mixing my paint off to the side, but you wouldn't be able to match any of these colors anyway because it doesn't have the actual color on it. So this is a little purple. Ooh, that looks good. I like that. It's very hard to be perfectly symmetrical. I can tell you that. Probably the wrong thing for me to try to do my first time in a while. Looking good, looking good. Okay, now I need to paint this little opening here. So that's going to be just with the purple. I'm not going to paint it a solid color. I'm going to leave it hollow. I don't know why, but when I draw a mask, I never can get the right eye spot to make the same as this one. I probably should have just did it on another sheet of paper and then flipped it over to be symmetrical. Okay, that looks pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. So I do like this so far. I'm thinking it's pretty finished, but I do want to splat some paint on here. And let's see, I gotta turn this sideways, sorry, to figure out what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna get me a lot of purple. Let's see if this works. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted. Stuff's falling on my cabinet. Okay. I'll clean up this splat a little bit right there. And another thing, you can kind of use your paper towel as almost like a sponge. Let me get a little of this gold. This doesn't make really good splats unless I do that. which it's fun because it kind of gives it that carnival, you know, like there's action going on. I really need a toothbrush. Let me get a little more green. I do feel like I need some more green drippies. And now if I want it this dark, like this, as dark as that is, then I really need to just leave it alone and not blot it, because the blot will pull the color out. There's all kind of tricks for doing the splatters. I'm really not a huge splatter person, but I just felt like it, you know, I wanted something like that for this design. You see how that's gonna, I could even make it drip. You can also like put a little more water in it. Ooh, it kind of wants to go. Come on. There we go. Okay, now I like that. Okay, then I'm gonna do my little swirlies over here, and I'm gonna consider this pretty much done. Let me get a purple. Okay, so what do you think? I think it's a cute little mask. It does need a little bling in it. I'm kind of scared I'm going to mess it up because I like it. But I'm going to put some purple. Let's see if I can put some purple little dots. Let's go ahead and do it at the top. Okay, I think that really did help it. I think it helped it. I do think I need more purple splatter. So what I did right here is I just made a big wet spot with the paint, and then I went ahead and dipped in more color and just kind of dropped the color into the top. And so when I pick it up, hopefully it'll run a little bit more. Well, that green's running some more. Let's see if I can get that purple to run a little bit. There we go. I'm going to blot that. So, there you go. Mardi Gras mask, watercolor. It took about 25 minutes to do. A lot of fun. I love watercolor. I can come back in and ink this if I want to make it more prominent, if I want to change some of the colors up. I may work on that a little bit later. But this is just a fun, quick little design. You can get you some of these watercolor. The watercolor brushes work great because you don't need to have water. I mean, you could just fill this up with water. And this had, I probably need to clean it out, but this water was still in it from before. And so here's the paints again. Let me move this out the way. And I'm not saying go buy these. I'm just showing what I painted with, okay? They're not Winsor Newton. They're nothing fancy, but it's kind of a groovy way you do it. So each of these colors, and you see it's got the colors down here. So each of these just fold up like this. Fold up like that. And then like that, and like that. And then you put your lid on your brush, wherever my lid is, and then it just snaps in there. And then you've got your little box you can travel with. It's even got directions on the back in Chinese. And this is to blot your brushes. Like if you didn't have a paper towel, you would clean your brushes on that, and that can be cleaned. So, anyway, this was my quick Create at 8, and I hope you all have a good evening. And if you have any questions, or if you want to have a watercolor workshop at the studio, comment below and say watercolor workshop, and I will be glad to put one together for y'all. Okay, good night.